But as you'll see here, Project Oracle Youth Evidence Hub aims to understand and share what really works in youth programmes in London. And what we believe is that together, and that's with, as I said, this emerging community of practice, if you like, we're building this innovative space. And that's where people can interact, we learn from one another, and it is intended to improve youth outcomes eventually. It originated with the Greater London Authority to generate and to use better evidence, and that's clearly a very important aspect of what we're doing here at Project Oracle and what many of you are involved in as well. Growing evidence for youth projects that actually will make some sort of difference, have an impact in London, and then to build up a repository, a kind of a resource of independently assessed and evaluated programs and projects in order to inform decision making. So these are the core principles, the core objectives of what Project Oracle has been setting out to do. One of the questions we've been asked and has come through the early days of Project Oracle in its pilot stage and still come back to us, and I think David will touch on this in his presentation as well, are questions about why. Why a Youth Evidence Hub? And here are just some of the reasons, but I think there's a lot more we can all add to it, given perhaps the experience of working with Oracle for the last few months. We certainly know that there is an increased demand. We know governments, statutory bodies, funders and commissioners are all interested in better evidence, and that's very much related to making decisions about what may be increasingly scarce resources, certainly making difficult decisions about how best to use those resources in a whole variety of different ways. And we all know that. We know that there is actually a much greater interest now in the voluntary sector across the board, and I don't think this applies just to providers that work with young people. I think we could look at anywhere in the voluntary sector or with provider organisations that might be statutory-led as well. We know that there is an interest in and a growing commitment to the need to generate and use evidence. There are a whole set of questions about how do you generate it, how do you use it, and these are some of the questions that Project Oracle is working to address with those that we're involved with. There is a growing expectation, and that will probably increase as well, that the voluntary sector will be in a position to actually get involved in the delivery of services. So we see increasing commissioning of services that are provided by the voluntary sector. And that relationship then between the commissioners, the funders, and very often the statutory funders and the providers is crucial to understanding what works and what evidence is needed and required to determine that, and to work with those providers to develop those services that they're beavering away at to put into place. We know that there has been leadership and commitment by the GLA, so this is very much the London-based part of it, to bring stakeholders together to share some of those common interests. And that has been absolutely behind Project Oracle. It's where it started. It continues to be supported by the GLA, and there is a continuing commitment to look within London, Greater London, and indeed we are getting interest from outside London now, people who've heard about us through a number of different networks saying, we're quite interested in this idea of Project Oracle. What would it mean for those out of London? And then in terms of universities, because there is a university link, as some of you will know, some of you may have had or have a researcher on placement. We have members of universities who are involved in social research and evaluation, also involved in Project Oracle in a number of different ways. Of course, universities increasingly need to demonstrate their value to the world out there. So being involved in an applied research area, looking at evaluation, looking at evidence, is really an important way to encourage our colleagues from universities to get involved in thinking about how do we work with providers, how do we work with our students to develop their skills and skills that they can provide and be useful to the other sectors that we're working with.